I was born and raised right here in Stockton, and I'm blind in my right eye. And I don't know if I ever knew that I was blind in my right, because I did everything I wanted to do. My mother never told me I couldn't play. I played baseball, basketball, football, everything. I mean, I could run, pitch, hit, you know. When I heard President Kennedy's inaugural speech, when I heard him say, "That's not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country," that was motivating to me, because it made sense. So when I graduated in '63, that's why I tried to join the service, because I was doing something for my country. When I was a kid, I remember my uncles and my friends' parents, their dads, and talking about World War II, but they never talked about the shooting part, you know, the dying part. They talked about the good times they had, and they never said, "Listen, son, war is hell, and you know, it's something you don't want to do." When we got in Vietnam, we were prepared as far as our knowledge or physical fitness, but what I don't think we weren't prepared for the consequences of war. Once the blood started flowing, you definitely got it. This was no longer training. This was no longer anything. This was real, and people were dying, and it changes your life from that time forward.
When partial blindness disqualified him from regular service, Richard Pittman joined the Marine Corps Reserves, determined to serve on active duty. After volunteering for a tour in Vietnam in 1966, he passed up a coveted engineering position, electing to become an infantryman on the front lines instead. On July 24, 1966, Pittman and his platoon were conducting search and destroy operations just outside the Demilitarized Zone.
We were to be part of a blocking force. The intelligence said that there were 8 battalions of North Vietnamese regulars coming down, crossing the DMZ in this area, and for the first time the North Vietnamese were coming down in force. We weren't supposed to directly engage the enemy at that time. We were supposed to get in positions and move the enemy into a contact position. Partway through that, they decided our company would go to set up a radio relay for the other units, and that's when we got into trouble. That morning, we were supposed to move up this hill to establish the radio relay point, and we were just moving up a trail. And I was the last one in the column. I was what they call tail end Charlie for my squad. My squad leader and I saw movement at one time to our right. We saw a North Vietnamese moving across a clearing. We reported it, but you know, we kept moving, and then a while after that we were ambushed. Things happened so fast that we got ambushed, and what Marines do what they do is they charge to the front. That's the last thing you want to do in an ambush, you know, because you're all gonna, it's like closing an accordion, you know, you're all gonna end up in a kill zone or a casualty zone or whatever, but that's what we did.
Ordered to wait just short of the fighting, Sergeant Pittman held his position while the lead platoon engaged in heavy combat nearby. As the situation worsened, the young soldier decided to leave the relative safety of his position to assist his struggling comrades who were clearly in need.
The Marines were actually calling for help and more firepower. I mean, I know the company line is you don't call for help, but let me tell you something, when Marines are shot, they want help. And firepower, believe it or not, I had the last functioning machine gun. So I was just trying to do what I've been trained to do. When I got to where I thought was the front of the unit, it was like the war had just stopped. I don't recall any conscious thing. I don't recall any noises. I don't recall anything. The lull in the fighting is that they were waiting to see if there was any more fire, if anybody was moving, or you know, I don't know what, but they sent maybe a platoon up to find out what the hell's going on, you know, and then it just boom, I'm there and they're there. we surprised each other. It was kind of like a tie, and I started shooting first, so there's nothing else to do. We're there, I'm there, they're there, and just started doing what we're supposed to do.
Dodging mortar and small arms fire, Sergeant Pittman charged forward to reach the besieged troops. Confronted with a sudden frontal attack by nearly 36 enemy troops, Pittman established a position and opened up with a withering barrage of machine gun fire, exhausting 3 weapons and hurling his last grenade at the retreating enemy. He then returned to assist his fallen comrades before finally rejoining his own platoon.
I didn't have any other goal in mind other than to just, help my fellow Marines. And in retrospect, fortunately, I was able to do that. I never knew how many were killed and wounded until I went to the Vietnam Memorial. When I saw a couple of names that I knew, and they were in my squad, and then the day of the action, and then all the names that were right there together. Difficult. It was shocked. I've been shocked. Just because we were all buddies, we were all close, and there was a lot, just a lot of casualties. It was several, I don't know how many years later, it was several years later, a friend of mine called me and said, "Have you seen today's Leatherneck magazine, or this month's Leatherneck magazine?" I said, "No." He said, "Well, there's a letter to the editor that you should read." It was from one of our platoon sergeants who said that if it wasn't for Lance Corporal Pittman, he wouldn't be writing that letter. And so that made me feel a lot better, because I just wondered, always wondered, I have a medal, but did it do any good? Especially after I saw the number of people who had been killed and wounded. I just always said, what was it worth? And then you find out that, it was worth a lot. A lot of people wouldn't be here. A lot of families wouldn't be here. It actually makes me feel like I did some good, but up to that time, it was just a medal. It's just something that I was given. It's something that lets the average guy know that they can do too. We're just Joe Blow, so to speak. We're just the guy off the corner, the guy that sat on the bench during high school for, never got to start a game, or a guy that carried towels. I earned my medal. It wasn't given to me. I earned that. But that doesn't make me any better or any stronger or any more intelligent or anything than anybody else. I'm just a guy who has a medal. That's all I am.